Hey guys, so today we are talking about the new show on Netflix called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. So for those of you who don't know, this show is a reality TV show where Marie Kondo, who is a professional in decluttering and organizing, goes into the home of various couples and families and she helps them to completely declutter and organize their home. Now she uses a specific decluttering and organization method called the KonMari Method. And in this method, essentially what happens is you go through 5 different categories, one at a time, and as you go through each category, you gather all of the items in your home that fall under that category, and you go through them one at a time, picking them up and deciding if they spark joy or not. And if they spark joy, you keep them, and if they don't spark joy, you let them go. So that is essentially the KonMari Method in a nutshell. So there are 5 steps to the KonMari Method, and these are supposed to be done in order. The 5 categories are 1, clothing, 2, books, 3, paper, 4, kimono, which means miscellaneous items, and 5, sentimental items. So I wanted to share with you guys just my thoughts and opinions on the method and the things that I agree with and the things that I would maybe just do a little bit differently. So first of all, I do like parts of the order. I like that she put clothing first, and I like that she put sentimental items last because her goal is to go from least challenging items to get rid of to most challenging. So that is why she starts with clothing and then ends with sentimental items, which are usually the hardest to get rid of. Now, I'm a bit confused as to why kimono, which is miscellaneous items, is the 4th category. And just to explain, kimono is literally everything that does not fall into one of the other 4 categories. So if it's not clothing, books, papers, or sentimental items, it is kimono. So you are talking about everything that is in your kitchen, everything that is in your bathroom, your garage, kids' toys, furniture, decor. So that is a lot of things. So I'm a little confused as to why that is number 4 and not a little bit closer to the beginning, because I would think that books and papers may be a bit more sentimental than your kitchen utensils or your toiletries. Now, another thing about the kimono category that is a little bit challenging for me is that it is just so large of a category that it is a bit intimidating and overwhelming to tackle. I wish that it was just broken down a little bit more. Besides the fact that it's farther along in the decluttering process, I also just wish that maybe there was a bit more direction as to how to approach that category. And you can see this as well on the show, that when people get to this category, they're like, oh, okay, we are decluttering everything else now, because they've just gone from 3 very specific categories, clothing, books, and then papers, and now they're being told to declutter everything else essentially, except for those sentimental items that will come at the end. So I do understand how these would go in the same category, because I think as far as connecting to the items, you probably aren't that connected to what is in your bathroom and what is in your kitchen. Like, those are probably on the same level. But I just think that maybe the category could have been broken down a little bit more so that it's not quite so overwhelming. And as far as papers go, some papers are things like mail and bills. Those wouldn't be as sentimental. But she is including all paper in this category, so that includes things like cards and personal letters and basically any type of memory on paper. So I would think that you would want to put that a little bit closer to the end. Now, something that I really like about the method is how all of the items are gathered into one place before you declutter or organize anything. So she requires everyone to get all of their clothing and put it on the bed, or get all of the books and put them in a pile, or all of the papers and get them on the table. Whatever category it is, everything comes together so you can see everything you have. And I think that is a great exercise, whether you're a hoarder or a minimalist, just to be aware of all of the items that you have, because I think when it's piled up in that way, you really just kind of see it in a different perspective. So I really do like that aspect of this method. And I also do really like how she does it by category and not by room, because I think especially for people who have a lot of stuff, and for a lot of these couples and families, their clothes are in multiple rooms and everything is kind of scattered all over the house, I think it's really important to have all of those items come together. So again, with putting them all on the bed or all on the floor, whatever it is, I think it's really good to be doing it by category and not trying to tackle like, let's do the bedroom now, let's do the kitchen now, because then you would just keep finding items that are supposed to be in different places, but they're not, and it's just kind of a cluttered mess as you're trying to get through the different sections. So I think it's really good that she goes by category and not by room. Now, another thing that I love about this show is how she organizes everything. It is just so beautifully done. Basically every space is organized in a way that you can see everything, and I love that. So when you pull out your drawers, you can see all of your socks, you can see all of your pants and all of your shirts, and how she folds everything upright. I think that is so amazing, and it is just like a totally new concept to me that I was not aware of. She loves to put everything in boxes, which I think is so brilliant, because so many times we just have our stuff stuffed away, even if we don't have that many things. Because I think sometimes my problem is that maybe I don't have a lot of items, but when they're in my drawers, they're still kind of in this mess. They're not really that organized. And I don't know about you, but if you're a minimalist, or if you tend to side more towards the minimalist side rather than the hoarder side, and if you've watched the show, you might think like the decluttering stuff, you know, it's not really groundbreaking. It's kind of like if you've decluttered before, then this isn't as new for you. But the organization is just, for me, it was like mind-blowing. Like, why haven't I thought of this before? Now, as far as the folding method, I honestly don't know if it's something that I would maintain in the long run. I think maybe for certain items, but I don't know if I'm the only one who doesn't do this, but I don't fold my underwear. I don't know if that's weird. I kind of thought that was normal. I just kind of throw them in my drawer and that's it. And I mean, I don't really see why it would be necessary to fold them. And same with my socks. Like, I do that thing where you fold the one sock over the other sock, and I don't really have a problem with that. I know it looks really beautiful the way that she has the socks and the underwear and just everything folded so perfectly, but I'm just not sure if I would really stick with that in the long run. I feel like I would be kind of annoyed by it and just feel like it's a waste of time. And even with things like tank tops, I just throw them in a bin. I don't actually fold them because it doesn't matter if they get wrinkled. No one sees them. They're just going underneath clothing. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Like, am I the only weird one who doesn't fold my underwear and my tank tops? I don't know. I thought that that was kind of normal. But yeah, I mean, it's something I definitely want to try. And I think if I had the proper compartments to sort them into, then I would be more motivated to do that. Now, I don't think Marie Kondo is specifically identifying herself as a minimalist. She never says that in her show. However, of course, she does help people declutter, and she's definitely on the less is more type of mindset. But the nice thing is she never pushes people to get rid of things that they really don't want to get rid of or that they're not ready to get rid of. She always allows people to keep things. If there is something they really love, like they have a collection of something, she is totally okay with them keeping it. She is more just about them having everything to have a designated place and really have everything organized so that it is a clean, livable space that you can really enjoy and feel just at peace and comfortable living in. Now, something that I don't really agree with as much is just this idea of sparking joy. And I get it for maybe someone who has never decluttered and you're really trying to get them to understand like the value of each individual item. She tells people how you should feel this like ching feeling, like this like you should almost have a little bit of a bubbliness in your spirit when you like pick up this item and look at it. But I think a lot of the times the items that we own are really more for a practical reason rather than a joy reason. And I know for me, like I struggle with that even with my clothes, because yeah, I do have a few items that I do really enjoy and I would like identify as sparking joy in my life. But a lot of them are just clothes that I have because I need something to wear. And as a minimalist, I already don't have a ton of items. So to throw out everything that does not spark joy, I would have an empty closet. And especially, of course, when you're talking about kitchen and bathroom and even books, if they're for a useful reason, educational purposes, all of those items may not really spark a lot of joy, but you need them to function in life. I think it can be confusing for people, especially if they just are starting this decluttering journey. If they don't feel a spark of joy, does that mean they just throw out everything that doesn't spark joy? And of course not. So that is definitely something to think about that I wish they had kind of touched on just a little bit more in the show. So another aspect of the show that is pretty interesting that they don't really talk about too much is the spiritual aspect. So what happens is once Marie Kondo comes into the house and greets the family and gets just a basic tour of the place, she asks if she can greet the house. And most of the families on the show are kind of just looking at each other like, what does that mean? We don't really know what you're saying, but sure. And what she does is she walks around and tries to find the perfect place. And then once she finds a place, she'll say, okay, this spot is good. And what happens is she will get on her knees and she will bow her head and close her eyes, and she will trace around herself in sort of like a semicircle, and that will just last for on the show, it just looks like it's lasting for maybe a minute or so. And then when she's done, she will get up really joyfully and say, okay, let's start tidying. What's happening with the families during this time is they're usually just watching her, holding hands, and maybe bowing their heads as well. They don't really touch on this in the show, but in her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, she does talk about how this is inspired by her upbringing and her practice of Shintoism. So when she was growing up, she served as a Shinto shrine maiden for 5 years, and she does mention that this is where her home greeting traditions started. She also talks about in the book how she would love to visit her local shrines and pay respect to her deities. She says that she began the custom quite naturally based on how she would worship at the Shinto shrines. The reason that she does it is because when she walks into a new family's home, that tension of expectancy that you have when you're greeted at the door is the same kind of atmosphere you have when you go under the shrine gate at the sacred precincts. Another thing that she does is she asks the people to thank the items of clothing or whatever item it is when you get rid of it. And at first I thought this was a little bit odd, but she explains that the reason you thank it is because it helps to lessen the feelings of guilt when you get rid of something. And I think that's a really smart way of thinking about it, because I know that for me a lot of times I'm like, oh, I feel kind of bad like getting rid of this. But if I picked up the item of clothing and I was like, well, I'm thankful for the times that I got to wear it and that I had clothing to wear, and if I'm getting rid of it in that mindset, it is a lot easier to let go of clothes and to not feel guilty doing it. So yeah, just to let you know, maybe if you haven't watched it but you're thinking about watching it, there is a spiritual aspect to the show, and depending on what your beliefs are, you may find it a little bit odd, but there's still a lot of really great tips, and I think overall the show is worth a watch because it is just really inspirational, and I really love how you can see this storyline of just these people going from this cluttered mess, and you can really see how it's weighing on them, how there really is a burden with their stuff, and it is causing tension in their relationships and is just creating chaos in their life. And going from that to the end where you can really see that it is just lifted this burden and their relationships are just going a lot more smoothly and everything is just seeming to fall into place. And so I think it really just paints a really beautiful picture of how decluttering and organizing really does change your life in a dramatic way. I think it was really just an eye-opener as well to really just see how everyone is at a different place in their decluttering journey. And sometimes, you know, I feel like I have a lot of stuff, but then I watch the show and I see that there are people that literally, when they take all their clothes out and put it on their bed, some people, it is literally almost touching the ceiling. Like, it is just insane the amount of clothes some people have. But it's a good reminder that, you know, everyone is just at a completely different stage in this. Some people, this is like the first time they've ever even like considered decluttering their space. And so I think it's just really neat to watch that journey of someone going from the beginning of never really decluttering any of their stuff for like 25 years or however long they've been living in their house to now like getting rid of so many years of just weight that has been on them. And something else that was really interesting about the show was just seeing how different people struggle with different areas when it comes to decluttering. You know, it's different for everyone, because some couples you would see like one person was really struggling on clothing and the other person was like, oh, you know, like this is so easy. And then like fast forward 2 categories and now the other person is like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to get rid of all these childhood memories in like the forms of paper. But then the other person has like no problem getting rid of all their papers. So it's just really neat to see how different people hold on to different items and the way they perceive their items, and just to see also how it really brings the families or the couples together, because they have to encourage each other and work together to get through the process. So overall, definitely would recommend watching the show. If you haven't checked it out, it's a great watch. If you're interested in anything to do with decluttering, organization, or minimalism, it is a really great inspiration. So let me know in the comments below, because I'm actually thinking like this show has inspired me so much, even though I just did a 500 item declutter, which I'll link you guys to if you want to check out. But I kind of just want to go through this KonMari method just to see like maybe going through it will spark some sort of, you know, desire to get rid of more things, and more than just the decluttering is the organization. And I would love to share that with you guys and just show you like the before and after of my space. So let me know if that is something that you would be interested in the comments below. And also just give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!